we worked remote, and the nature of our work allows us, with KPIs in place, the key performance indicators, to know, whether someone needs more support, less support. And so when I took my team of 15, now 28, that was a year ago, January 25. You do miss that interaction. So we work a lot through we use Teams. It's the simplest, Microsoft Teams for us. And we have lots of group meetings and, small meetings. The billing department has theirs, the consultants, the lawyers, the leadership.
Hi, and welcome to Main Street AI, the podcast where traditional businesses are quietly revolutionizing their operations with artificial intelligence and winning. In this podcast, I sit down with industry leaders from law firms and professional services and other Main Street businesses to explore their AI journey. We dive into the opportunities they see, the challenges they're navigating, and the real impact of AI on their industries. Whether you're AI curious or ready to implement, this show brings you insights from leaders who are actually using this technology to serve customers better, empower employees, and drive profitable growth. Raymond Gray has been doing property tax law since 1985. He helped write the Texas Property Tax Code while working for the legislature as a law student. He's represented some of the largest corporations in the country, including a $2 billion valuation dispute involving the third largest refinery in the world, settled in 3 weeks. He's almost 70, about to launch a new case management system with full AI integration, and targeting 100% revenue growth this year without doubling headcount. He also boards horses, leads Boy Scouts, and readily admits his superpower is talking too much. This is one of the warmest, funniest, most wide-ranging conversations in the show's history, and it happens to contain some genuinely sharp thinking about what AI means for a highly specialized contingency fee litigation boutique. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Main Street AI podcast. This is Stephen Whittier with Satori Coach IO. Today, I'm joined by Raymond Gray of Gray, Winston Hart. Thank you, Raymond.
Hi, Stephen. Good to be here.
Great. Great to have you aboard. Enjoyed our little pre-interview chat as well, very much. So could you give everybody a high-level overview of who you are and what your firm does?
Well, let me start with the firm. That's, more interesting. We're a small boutique law firm located in Austin, Texas, or at least that is what we claim, since we're 100% remote. But I'm outside of Austin. Our firm focuses solely on property tax. Texas is very heavily reliant on property tax, particularly for school funding. And so we represent property owners in trying to make sure that they want to pay their fair share. They just don't want to pay more than their fair share. So that's what we do. As for me, and I should mention, I think we're 28 employees scattered from one who I met here at my at the barn riding horses, is now getting a double master's in Austria. We have a young woman who's just finished up at University of Texas, will be going to law school at the University of Hawaii. So she's in Hawaii, and then we're at various points in between. But for me, I've been doing property tax for pretty much all of my legal career. When I graduated University of Texas Law School back a few years ago, I was involved in politics in my hometown of Corpus Christi. Then moved back to Austin. I was in Houston for a short while was on the other side of the docket doing delinquent tax collections and representing appraisal districts, so the government side. And then in 1999, I switched over. My start in property tax came while in law school. I worked for the Texas legislature for the House Ways and Means Committee when the property tax code, what we always call the PIVOTO bill, after Wayne Pivotal, after it was adopted in 1980. So I do go back a ways and have been doing after politics property tax since 85. And shoot, it's what I do. I tell people I only know three things. I know Boy Scouts, horses, and property tax. And anyone who knows anything about one of those three things will probably question how much I know about any of the one that they know about. But that's kind of what I do, and have a lot of fun doing it.
Great. By the way, I was asking myself in my mind when you said I only know three things, what they were going to be, and based on our conversation, I was right with the three. But and you said that this is so you're involved primarily. This is property tax litigation, and
Yes, yes.
and you said that
We
this very
excuse me, Fran, I would tell you, we do kind of a start to finish. So
okay.
we do in Texas, there's an informal process of consulting that's non-legal. And then there's the litigation. So for some clients, we have the start to finish, but then we have a number of consultants that come to us to do litigation for them. We don't, and they don't feel like we're competing.
Mhm.
We just offer a service that some clients want. But for high stakes litigation, those consultants come to us.
Understood. And could you touch a little bit on the remote, 100% remote too? Because I've had several interviews now. I think you would be maybe the third with 100% remote firm, and that is not only you very specialized with what you do, but that's something that's still fairly unique in and of itself. What was the evolution of that? Is that something that happened around COVID and shutdowns, or yeah?
It 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 started at COVID. We had an office, but we were very small. And it was really a team within a team, my part of the practice with, my partner, and now we've separated. But, she was, it was two attorneys, a legal assistant, and a receptionist. And I went from having me and an assistant to 15 people. And that requires a bigger office or a little bit more remote. And that happened during COVID. And even though we were considered, and lawyers are full of themselves, so of course we were an essential service, and could go into the office, we worked remote. And the nature of our work allows us, with KPIs in place, the key performance indicators, to know, whether someone needs more support, less support. And so when I took my team of 15, now 28, that was a year ago, January 25, we it was a challenge because I tend to be fairly social. Luckily, we also board horses at my place. So I have people there to go to visit with. But, you do miss that interaction. So we work a lot through we use Teams. It's the simplest, Microsoft Teams for us. And we have lots of group meetings and, small meetings. The billing department has theirs, the consultants, the lawyers, the leadership, my COO. One of the things that makes it probably a little more challenging from the coaching, leadership, mentorship perspective, or that could, if you didn't really work at it, is I'm the oldest person in our firm. The next oldest, my partner, Greg Hart, is celebrating his 50th birthday right now in Europe. And then the next oldest, we may have our billing coordinator. I'm smart enough not to guess she's in her 40s, but maybe she's approaching them. And like our COO, been with me 6.5 years. She'll be 32 in August. She's young enough that I can still say her age. But it's young people. And so, you have to really work at the mentorship and go and I go into Austin for those that are there, go up to Dallas. San Antonio is easy enough. That's my oldest son, but more importantly, where my grandbaby is. So I can go down there and visit. So we just, you work at it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting piece of the conversation as well, because a lot of attorneys are just thinking, that that's not the model, that's not what we do. But more and more, I'm seeing that this is becoming much more doable, and really across different legal disciplines too, legal specialties. It's not just one particular type of law seems to lend itself a little bit more to,
We
yeah.
Oh, excuse me. We have, they said I get wound up. Well, I get wound up about a lot of stuff, but this because people question it, and we have two of our clients are the largest financial services clients or companies in the country, big competitors of one another, but with property tax, they both want the same thing, not to pay so darn much. And they have big corporate headquarters in Texas. And it was interesting going through there because no one wants their financial advisor sitting in their pajamas at home making, $1 million decisions for them. But they were having a hard time getting people to come in after COVID, even when required.
Mhm.
And they were only asking, one of them was only asking for those people to come in 1 week per month as a team so they could have that collaboration. But even then, it seems like younger people in particular, they got that work from home, that remote, and it works for them. It doesn't work for everybody, and we have to be very uh, intent and intentional on the people that we hire that have that kind of self-starter gene or whatever it is that they know, hey, it's 8 o'clock, 8:30, whatever their rhythm is,
Mhm.
to be up online, working, getting stuff done, being available. Since we have national clients, sometimes your work day can
Right.
be one time or the other. I have a regular call at 7 a.m. Luckily, you live on a ranch, you get up a little early anyway.
Well, I mean, the good thing is we've got the technology now that can facilitate that, which wasn't always the case, but now that's becoming more and more of where things are, if not already there, then certainly moving.
Yeah.
Speaking of technology, so I'll transition over to talking about the AI and all the emerging tech piece. What are you seeing right now in terms of how that's trending in the legal domain and in your work? What do you think about that?
I guess in our, I mean, our work is not necessarily different. The way we employ technology seems to be different, although I'm not sure it is, because I don't think that the folks that employ technology, the lawyers, the firms that employ technology like our firm does, are making the news. Just like, as you said, we have the technology for these video calls that heck, you might as well just be sitting across the desk from me. Uh, everyone heard about the lawyer who had some kind of cat filter on, couldn't figure out how to get it off. Everyone hears about the lawyer who submits briefs or submits their briefs with all kinds of nonsense in them, or, things, what do they call it? Hallucinations, making up stuff, which is really hard to understand because I think most of us that use technology, and I'm speaking specifically right now of AI, it's just another tool. And if you use it as a type of assistant, which is what it is, it's there to assist you in doing your work. Now, someday, hopefully after I'm long gone, it might take over and do all the work for you, have that critical thinking skill. But right now, it is an aid, it's an assistant. And if I hire, and we have young clerks that are really smart, UT pre-law students, to give a shout out to my, well, not my alma mater. I went to the law school, but we have a young woman worked with us 2 years now at UC Berkeley, at Hawaii, at UT Law School. And so very smart, but I'm checking their work. I don't care if it's a LinkedIn post or, they were doing some legal work. The same with the young lawyer. We hire young lawyers, young people, you check the work, either for correctness, but also to give feedback and coaching. Well, the same with AI. I'll use it from everything from horse breeding to helping me develop the leadership training program that we do at our firm to, any number of things on how you value EV charging stations, because those are so unique. It gets me a head start. It gets the juices flowing. It's someone to brainstorm with, but I'm going to double check it. And I'm going to give it feedback either by drilling down on questions, or I just turn it into a Word document. And then I give it feedback by making the changes. It makes it my voice and the way that I want to do things, in this way that I think is most persuasive to a court or the court that I'm appearing before. And so from our standpoint, the lawyers are, I would say, slowly using AI in their legal work and helping them refine or get a running start, as I said. Instead of going next door and collaborating, maybe you just collaborate with Claude or Harvey or whoever. But the way right now that we're really using it is, for a small firm, we file a lot of lawsuits, represent a lot of property owners. It's just the nature of how Texas property tax works, and working your way up to the appeal level. So it's not as litigious as far as that confrontation. In a lot of ways, I tell our young lawyers that our opposing counsel, who represent appraisal districts, and the property owners are really on the same side in a lot of ways. We're just trying to come up with the right value. Now, we have some different ways of coming to it, but it's a very collegial, because you're dealing with the same lawyers, the same appraisal districts all the time. And but in any event, we have a fair amount of volume, and so we're right now just hopefully less than 2 weeks away from going live our new software case management package that will have a lot of AI in it. So it's taking what, Case Cloud is the particular platform that we're moving to with iManage, and then bringing in some other stuff so that we can use AI. And without getting into the weeds, what are we working on? The appraisal district says, hey, this is the value we think your property is worth. We look and say, in conjunction with our clients or whatever, no, that's too high. So we appeal that. Well, in the past, we had to hand enter all of that data, what the starting value is. You get a new client, the legal description, the property, to all of this stuff. Now, there is a firm that we use that is a data aggregator. They go to all the appraisal districts, gather all their data, put it there. We have an API, and Stephen, don't ask me what that is. I don't need to know. I just need to know it exists. And I have staff that knows.
Yes.
That goes from our system to their system, pulls the data we need out into our system, and then boom, it can populate everything. So all of that very monotonous, repetitive, head down, green eye shade, just data entry till you can't see straight. We get rid of a lot of that so that our staff can do critical thinking. And it's hard to grow as a person or an employee, and really all of our employees we feel are professionals, at least at their task. How do you grow if you just have your head, sitting there doing data entry? Some people love that, but that's where we see our ability to provide a better level of service more efficiently, which allows us not only to hopefully make a fair profit, and I'm a lawyer, I get to define what fair is, but not only to make that fair profit, but to provide our services at a lower cost.
Absolutely.
And so for us, a few years back, a lot of large firms, and we heard this particularly in the accounting, the big four were some of the first ones that took a lot of that type work offshore, whether it was Philippines, India, Colombia, South Africa, wherever. Well, now that work can be done by AI, and it can be done by folks our size that don't have the capabilities really to go set up a whole area department that's AI, that is virtual, that you're not connected with.
Right. Yeah, I think you hit on many of the key benefits there. You've got the efficiency, you've got the ability to allocate more time, energy, resources towards higher level critical thinking and problem solving, and then also, it allows you to run leaner, which means there's benefits there for your end clients as well, passing on savings. Which I've had a couple conversations with attorneys that are almost concerned about that in terms of the billing model, but I think there's absolutely a win there in terms of, well, now you're going to be able to handle more volume
Right.
without a commensurate level of overhead.
And so, and now we're primarily contingent fee. So I always feel like that. And sometimes that contingent fee, people think about the giant billboard, the lawyers, that derogatory term ambulance chasers or whatever. But really, I just feel like it aligns our interests with our clients, that we don't need to churn the ocean. We don't need to send out a bunch of discovery in every case. Let's sit down, have that informal conversation. I represented one of the largest corporations in the world with the third largest refinery. Now, I wasn't alone, but the third largest refinery, I believe, in the world. We settled that case in a little over 3 weeks.
Wow.
Now, we set some, and we're talking about whether it was worth $2 billion or $1 billion. So, I mean, some real money. But we did some legwork, visited with the school district to show with the Texas school funding formulas that the impact was not going to be very great on them. We worked through some stuff, but we also had provided the information, had expert appraisal reports, and boom, the appraisal district saw where we were coming from, got out from under political pressure, and it was resolved. Well, that's the best case scenario for everybody concerned, for the taxing units to have some certainty, for the client to have certainty and not have that distraction, for the appraisal district, the same thing. And the courts are glad to get you out of there off their docket.
Right, absolutely.
But even there was and I wish I could tell you the name of the person. There was an interesting post that I read on LinkedIn talking about people who have an hourly billing model.
Mm-hmm.
And now what happens when you are able to get the work done in half the time,
Yes.
or even quicker? And I think you touched on it. And what it does for us is it allows us to increase our margin.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what does that do? It means that we can represent property owners that otherwise we couldn't afford to handle, because that value reduction that we knew, man, even if we cut their value by a third, we're only going to make $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. And not trying to big time it, but most any lawyer will tell you it's tough to file a lawsuit and spend the time to develop the case in that short of with that type of fee, while you're also doing nuclear power plants and wind farms and corporate campuses. Well, now our goal is to be able to drop down what we can do and not feel like you're doing pro bono work. And the same for the hourly people. My youngest son is at a giant, they represent employers. He does data privacy and cybersecurity. And, their hourly model, but kind of the same thing. He'll just be able to they'll make the same money just taking care of more clients, because they will be able to more people. It won't take only right now. They have lots of Fortune 500 companies. Now they'll be able to get some of the more local companies that'll be able to afford them.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, lots of benefits.
My superpower is talking too much. When I meet with appraisal districts over the phone or email and we can't get things worked out, all I have to do is say, well, Stephen, looks like we're just not getting anywhere. You know what? I'll come visit with you. We'll spend the afternoon working this out. Oh, no, Raymond, please, not that. I know we can get this done. So, because I do get wound up by this. That's why I'm doing it. My friends are all retiring. Now. I'll be 70 this, 3 months. And, so I get the why did you start a new firm, last year? And it's because I'm still wound up. I'm still wound up about what I do, and I get fired up about it.
I love it. I was talking, actually, another based in Galveston, another attorney named Tad. He's criminal defense. He appeared on the podcast here. He's around your age and still firing on all cylinders, and I love the energy. So,
may I give you a quick aside, since you mentioned Galveston? My old law partners, before I had joined their firm, had a big case in Galveston. I want to say this is the late 80s, so a lot of people will not have been alive then, or early 90s. But they go down, and there's a lawyer, and I wish I could remember his first name. He had been, they wanted local counsel, wanted to make sure they didn't get hometown. and they found this lawyer, and I believe his name was Schwartz. He had been the mayor of Galveston. He was when he was a young man in the early 1930s, for heaven's sakes. And so he's there, and the name of the firm is Schwartz and Schwartz. And so Mr. Schwartz now is like pushing, I think he said he was 90, 91, still practicing solo Schwartz and Schwartz. And so Jim or Bill one asked, so Mr. I think it was Jim, Mr. Schwartz, the name. So was the other Schwartz your dad? No, it was my son, but the young whippersnapper up and retired at 65. And this younger generation.
That's amazing.
But yeah, I mean, it was his passion, it's what kept him going. And I think it is having a lot of it's having that servant heart, wanting to help others. And he was still at it.
Absolutely. So I'll pivot a little bit over to your firm. You did a fantastic job of, I think, outlining all the benefits of adopting the technology and also showing, because as you said, having practice as long as you have, being about to turn 70, doesn't matter how old you are. This isn't only for young people, right? You're open to it. You're innovating and evolving with where the technology is leading. But now I'll go over to your firm a little bit. What would you say that, I know you're already very specialized in boutique, but what do you think sets you apart from others in your area that you do exceptionally well?
I think it not because of me, but we are a high stakes litigation firm. It's funny how many lawyers call themselves litigators. And so, what do I do? Property tax litigation. Okay. I file a whole lot of lawsuits. I go to court now, but I go to be the wingman. I'm the second chair. I testify to attorneys' fees, why they are. It's the gray hair, of the firm. I've got my young partner, Lee Winston, went to law school with my youngest son, but is the most talented, certainly since all I do is property tax, the most talented property tax attorney that I've ever worked with, particularly at this stage of his career, which is why he's my law partner. And he's fearless, and he's a tremendous litigator. And we have firms that are competitors that refer cases to us when they can't get them settled. And we had one that referred after they had taken depositions, Stephen. I mean, they were that far. Now, as it wound up, it could be settled because the other side saw and knew that, hey, we were going to court. And so I think that's one thing on the substantive. The other thing is our attorneys all take appraisal institute courses, because what are we arguing? We're advocates for value, and the correct value. Well, we need to understand it. Just like the med mal lawyers, most of those have some medical background. IP guys are usually in the engineering, biotech, that type stuff. And so we know valuation many, many times because property tax, the value that the Texas property tax code requires the appraisal districts to put the value on it is different from what you would sell your office building or your home or whatever. They can be, believe it or not, two different values, and there's very specific reasons. We wind up having to educate a lot of appraisers and reminding them that what the 15th edition of the Appraisal of Real Estate, kind of the Bible for appraisers, says about the difference between least fee and fee simple. And that stuff, extracting intangibles out so that you're not valuing a hotel you're valuing a piece of real property being used as a hotel. So you got to take out all of those, the reservation system, the rewards, all the other stuff. And so I think it's that. And then the intentionality that I talked about in our interview process, we really try to identify people with a growth mindset, and then we work at growing. I feel like our firm's growth comes two ways. One, if we grow our people, we will grow our firm. So we're looking for people that have a growth mindset, like Carol Dweck wrote about, have that growth mindset to improve themselves, and which will help the firm. And the other thing that we look for is that servant heart, and there's been a lot written about it, but I think we work with a couple of really talented mentors, coaches, professional coaches. And not only, I'm still being coached by guys younger than me, but that can really help me and have helped me grow. And they work with our staff. And, I think having that growth mindset separates us from what I see a lot of our competitors, and maybe that's why we're a little ahead of most of the lawyers I know on technology and AI, because we try to be open to it and have growth through service.
Yes.
For me, serving our client, I talk about and I know we don't have a whole lot more time. You couldn't stand listening to too much more, but I went back and forth with my mentor, and it is on the organization chart. Mm-hmm. And, well, we're big enough now to have an organization chart where everyone's not wearing 3 or 4 hats. And I've done mine the way our chief scout executive in the Capital Area Council does, where John Yates puts himself at the bottom of the pyramid, and it goes up like this. And the reason is, and that goes up through the paid professionals, the volunteers, to the youth. Because what is John's job? To support everybody else and the people he is. And that's the way I look at it. Well, my coaches didn't like it. They liked the more traditional. We compromised. Ours is a linear. I'm here, then Allison, my almost 32-year-old COO, is there. And we branch out that way. But to not have that hierarchical, but it is, because I feel like that allows us to serve one another. My job is to give everybody all the tools they need to succeed, and then get out of their way. And, and then they, in turn, by knowing that you care about them and them as people and even their family, then they're going to serve us, the leadership of the firm, the owners of the firm. So I think you've asked 5 questions and I've answered 25 at least.
It all coheres, no worries. And then, so interestingly, like, you've had a long career, but you also branched off, like you said, a year ago. And so you've sort of have a relatively new entity. Where are you at right now in terms of growth, and where are you looking to get to in the next year?
We actually were trying and were unsuccessful with a really good friend of mine, or ours, always been one of the top property tax attorneys, not only in the state, but in the country. I have a friend of mine that always describes me as being on the Mount Rushmore of Texas property tax attorneys. Well, I'm a notch below John and several other people, I think. But we tried to merge with him. It didn't quite work, but his partner and associate both came over with us. If there are good opportunities, we're looking not only to acquire, another law firm, someone who's looking for a better platform, a larger platform or whatever, but also a consulting firm. Right now, we want to get more heavily involved in that start to finish with complex industrial properties, chemical plants, manufacturing, process improvements, refineries, a nuclear power plant. There's not many of those, that type stuff. And so have consultants that have that engineering background that can help us. I think that that's a real area for us to grow. But our growth is also measured. I think right now, for this next year, our motto, our firm is Gray, Winston and Hart, GWH, and so our firm right now has GWH 2X in 26.
Nice.
Because we would like to double our revenue without doubling our staff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've put the staff in place, because I always feel like you have to have troops in reserve, Stephen, so that you get some large client, you're not scrambling, you don't miss a beat, you
Very
keep
smart.
going. And so that's kind of what I'm looking for. I tend to bang the drum the loudest, but we have a really good team, with very collaborative. When we talk about, I didn't know what API was, we have 4 people. It winds up, the 4 managers, and our COO, winds up somehow being 5 women that are young women that are driving the train. But maybe that's because they're self-starters, and since we're remote, we need that. But yeah, it's just it's I guess every generation, man, we live in exciting times, but man, we live in exciting times, and one of the things that really energizes me is, think about it. I get to work with young people, whether it's in scouting, and I have young men that I still mentor, and they're in their mid-30s. But you've had that opportunity, and of course, that's still darn young to me, half my age. But the people in my office, you have these young people that want to go. And so, getting out of the way, holding on to their coattails so I don't get left too far behind, but getting to coach and mentor them and be challenged by them. I mean, think about it. What could be better? It's just, and sorry, I guess I've apologized 3 or 4 times about I get wound up, but, particularly with young people, and the worst thing about getting old and passing on is not getting to see what is left behind and who is left behind, and where maybe that little part that you had, one of my favorite senior patrol leader, Kyle, 4 brothers, all Eagles. When my youngest son says, "Gee, thanks, Dad," when I tell him that Kyle is my favorite, "Oh, well, you're second place, tied with Scott, Kyle's older brother." Thanks, Dad. But to still be a mentor to Kyle, and have someone that still wants to have that connection that he doesn't have to. And Kyle has tremendous parents, wonderful parents, were a big help to me as Scoutmaster. And still they want to have that connection with you. Man, so it's that you want to see what it's going to be like. I want to see my 2-year-old granddaughter. What can I do to help her? The legacy that you leave behind. And for me, it's not the name on the door.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
as I joke, I'm going to have portraits made for everybody, and it's going to be me, by God, and they're going to have it on their wall so they don't forget the old guy who helped them out back in the day.
Well, this brings me to where I always like to conclude, which is after talking about the business and all your goals for that side of life, what's your big personal motivation for everything that you do that informs what drives you professionally, but also personally? What would you say that is? I think you've already started on it, but
Yeah.
just
And
specifically.
Stephen, I think I would tell you, and it took a little bit to come to this. We had a retreat. I've always felt that service, with scouts, with I kind of always wanted to be a teacher. I just didn't want to be as poor as our culture makes teachers have to be. But scouting, I get to do that. The young people in the firm, I get to do that. I'm going to New Orleans Wednesday to speak before the ABA IPT on valuing energy properties, so I like that. But Wolfgang helped me really, and our team, as we talked about it, distill it into, I think, what I thought, growth through service. And if we serve one another, it allows us to serve our clients. And we do a fair amount of pro bono work. As I tell people, and I hate for word to get out, we do not charge churches for representing whatever the denomination, whatever the faith. When you're a lawyer and you're me, your chances of getting to heaven are so slim that, man, if you're billing churches, you're really going to have a problem. But that's a form of service. But heck, we're serving some of the biggest corporations in the country. Now, we tell ourselves we're representing widows and orphans. Those are the shareholders of all the Fortune 500. They've got that in their stock portfolio. But it really is, I think, feeling the connection that we get to have with our clients, that and we're lucky. I think what I've learned over the years is that when I run into people, deal with people, that I feel like I live my life with gratitude, not to be some big. It's just, you have that gratitude. And so that's a lot of reason you want to give back. And it always, in my case, has been the more I give, the more and the better I get back from my staff, from clients, and that relationship. But, having that is just that when I run into people that don't seem to live their life with gratitude, I've finally learned to just bless and release. That's who they are. That's fine. It doesn't work with me, and so I let them go. So having the opportunity to serve others, to receive that gratitude, and you don't need oh, you're great and all of that, but just, even without the words, that they appreciate you and the work and the diligence that you're doing. I don't know. Simon Sinek talks about, what was the book? Find Your Why.
Mhm.
What is the why? Well, I feel like mine is service. And, you hear a lot about passion and purpose. Well, you need that purpose first. Passion is great, but we know a lot of people with misdirected passion. You can go to Las Vegas and see them. You can go all kinds of places and see them. But to have a purpose and then be passionate about it. And, I hope when you're done that you think, you know what? And my guess is you do have that purpose, but your passion, your purpose is really to help educate others. That's why you'd have a podcast. And then the passion is that you're willing to listen to people like me that can talk nonstop, to try to glean the nugget or two out of it, out of the pile of whatever it is. But it is, and I hope you kind of lose sight because I'm just having a conversation with you that when they start listening, there'll only be a dozen or so, and most of them will work for me that listen to this, but that they're like, you know what? I want that passion, and I just, what is my purpose? And I'm going to tell you one last thing. We hired a young woman who very quiet, very shy, insists she wants to be in the background. And at the end of the year, she started in January, the holiday bonus. We try to bonus some through the year to recognize people, but the holiday bonus. And she wrote a note that just really touched my heart. Mm. And it was, she thanked me. Her husband was kind of between jobs. He was basically doing mechanic work, at their house. And she thanked me that how this was allowing her to provide for her family. And you think about employees, and one of the things, and I told my son this when he went to his giant law firm, is you have to treat the staff like volunteers. And think about it. Right now, they are volunteers. I mean, there's a lot of demand for good people. I might be paying them, and hopefully they feel like I'm paying them well, but they are a volunteer. They decide every day to get up and come to work with me and my partners and each other. And that's a very satisfying thing. And Jessica telling me that, my law partner's wife, Lee's dad, passed away a couple of years ago. The next year, Morgan's dad, his wife, Perry, passed away. Just a tremendous, both of them were, but Perry, I knew a little bit more, tremendous man, and family man of faith. And he wound up passing away. And I have to take a breath to keep from getting choked up every time I tell this story. Probably the greatest thing that anyone's ever told me, the kindest and the thing that touched me the most, was I lost my dad the day before I turned 16, so I could relate some to that. And Morgan's dad passed, and she said that she and Lee felt like that, so fortunate that they had the blessing of still having a dad here to talk to. Yeah. And so when people ask, what's the why? It's the people, that I get to work with and deal with every day. Even the folks on the other side who think I'm a turd sometimes, and sometimes I think they're a turd. We all know that we're still people. We still have a connection. Yes. And, and hopefully they know that in spite of whatever I'm doing right then, that my heart's in the right place. And so that's, and I think in some ways when you ask what's the differentiator, I do feel like maybe it is that heart, that servant heart, that heart of gratitude.
Absolutely. And obviously, Raymond, I think that comes through a lot with everything you said about the culture you've built too. So that's definitely reflective. How can people who are interested in contacting you about your services, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
my email is, and my email, my cell phone number is all over the website. In fact, I would tell you go to graywinston.com, and that's Gray, but graywinston.com so that so that you can see who the people are that are going to really do the work, not just the guy who's advising them. But see our team and some of the things we do, and then yeah, our phone numbers, our emails are all on there. And reach out to anyone. That the one thing that we do say: you call our office, you get to talk to a partner.
Mhm.
You just hope it's Lee or Greg or Tracy and not me.
I appreciate all the wisdom, and I appreciate how heartfelt everything was, and your sense of humor as well. It was very great. So thanks so
Thanks.
much for today.
Well, thanks, Stephen. I really appreciate this opportunity. This has been great.
Excellent. Take care.
Take care.